What's up, y'all? It's TruthTiger, and I have another video on dating, and I'm gonna talk about how dating is completely cooked. And I'm a man. I'm gonna talk from the masculine perspective on this and speak about some of the things that I see that are messing up the dating game. I would say the first of which is the corn, the prawn, whatever. I can't really say the word here because of censorship, but you know what I'm talking about, the videos and all the stuff online. And people will get so addicted to that and into that, mostly men, but there are some women who struggle with that as well. And like pretty much every guy is gonna have a struggle with that. Like, I was first exposed to that kind of thing when I was maybe 10 years old. There was like a pop-up ad on a website, and it showed a very pretty girl in not very much clothing. And I remember seeing that at like 10 years old or so, honestly pre-puberty, but I guess there was some stuff still kicking in me, and it was like, oh my god, like it was like seeing the ring in Lord of the Rings. It was like, my precious, I need it, and I remember I showed a couple of my friends it, and they ended up printing out the photo, and it became this whole like kind of thing. But we get exposed to that stuff so early on, and there's a lot of guys who have legit erectile dysfunction from watching too much of that stuff. And it's like they fall in love with the computer, they fall in love with technology, really. And when it comes to a real person, a real woman, it's like that's not what they have oriented themselves to. They've oriented themselves to watching videos and doing stuff with that, and a real person is not something that they can really relate to anymore. And that's happening to a lot of guys. And with the OnlyFans and the cams and all this stuff, like, a lot of guys are just falling into that goon world. They're falling into the gooniverse because they don't have, I guess they just don't have real stuff going on. They don't have self-control. And I've struggled with this stuff too. We all have struggled with this. Sorry, I got my hand in the way there. I've struggled with this too, and it's an easy trap to fall into. But a lot of guys are just really falling down that hole of all that. And it gets guys in this really weird state where they're not going to be able to relate to a woman at all. And kind of segueing into that is, we have like a hookup culture now. We don't have a culture of dating and getting married and having kids and having families. The dating culture is oriented toward these quick hookups, these one-night stands. And I used to do that a lot. Go on these dating apps, do a lot of one-night stands, do a lot of hookups. And I did it because it was relatively easy. There was not that high of a barrier to entry. I mean, you got to find somebody willing and whatever. There's kind of like legwork involved, and you got to send messages, and there's a little bit of a hustle to it, but it's relatively accessible. And I remember just being younger, like, I don't know, 18, 19, when I kind of first started dating and doing all that. And my parents had a bad marriage. I didn't really see family or marriage is a happy thing. So people would ask me, do you want a girlfriend? Do you want a date? I'm like, nope, I just want sex. That's it, and our culture and the way things are set up, it makes it easy to do that. And that makes it a normal, easy thing to do. And the thing is, that's very easy and simple to do. It's not fulfilling, and it kind of, it'll kind of just exhaust you and wear you down after a while, but it's something that, like, it's a lot quote unquote simpler than a relationship. Relationships take work, effort, you gotta make stuff happen. Whereas this, you just go in, do what you want, and then you don't have to worry about that person in the end of the day. And people are not going to really want to date. They're not going to really want to like have long-term relationships, and you can just boom do that. Why bother? I mean, I would say from a man's perspective, most women, I think, do want long-term relationships. They do want long-term companionships, but Most guys, I would say, just more want a quick boom, boom, boom. I mean, really, we all desire love. Really, we all want connection. I know it sounds cheesy, but we all want a soulmate, if you will, you know? We all do want that kind of true love, if you will, you know? And I don't want to be too cheesy or too romantic, but we all do kind of want that. But with these hookups, it's like if you're a guy, you can just get the physical thing you want very quickly. You don't have to really give commitment or time or energy or focus to this woman. And for women, they see it as normal. It's sold as being empowering, whatever, when it's not really empowering. It's just like a lot of people are just kind of wasting their time getting older and older, and then no family, no kids, no nothing. And, you know, in your 30s, 40s, and you kind of got nothing to show for it. And that's what's going to be happening with men and women. And I'm not saying you have to get married. I'm not saying you have to have kids. I'm single right now. I'm not saying you have to do that. But, you know, we're going to see like population declines, and, you know, we're going to see some problems in society because people are not really having kids or reproducing. You know, there's a lot of countries where the population is going down big time, you know. I know in Japan the population is decreasing because of this. I know there's a good amount of European countries where the population is decreasing because of this. And, you know, you're just not going to have someone with you by your side. You're just always going to be jumping from person to person, situation to situation, thing to thing. And I'm not judging people for doing these hookups. It's a very, you know, when you're living in a physical, carnal way, it's a very easy thing to just want to do. It's a very easy way to want to spend your time. You know, that just kind of is what it is. I used to do this. You know, it wasn't until I found God and really, like, changed my priorities up that I didn't want to do all these hookups anymore. It became very unfulfilling. And, you know, this hookup culture also, it really makes things, I don't know, it makes things very, like, it kind of changes up the dynamic a bit, where if, I'm not, I was going to say I'm the best looking guy, but I'm decent looking enough to where it's like a lot of the girls are going to genuinely want to go for just a good looking guy. The guys who are not so good looking will kind of get forgotten about. And in general, as a guy, it's tough to get those matches, you know. Girls are going to get a lot of matches on these dating apps and stuff. Guys are not going to get as many matches and whatever. It just kind of does create this dynamic where there's a lot of women are like, I got 100 guys matching with me, so I have so much options. But it's like, most of those guys are just trying to hit it and quit it and not even give you any commitment. And that's the thing, is most guys out there are not trying to give commitment. They're just trying to hit it and quit it. And a good amount of guys are so perved out and gooned out, and just like from watching all the, you know, the corn, the prawn, whatever, from being all in that, and then they take that energy to the dating apps and to dating, and then they're just like a weird like pervert, you know. So there's a lot of that going on too, that's like making the scene pretty knocked off balance. And, you know, the thing is, with the side where it's tough with women, and where I see a lot of, you know, difficulties and struggles that I've had, is there's all these kind of Disney movies, and it's Prince Charming, and he's perfect, and he never makes any mistakes, and he rescues the princess, and he changes everything in her life, and, you know, and I feel like women get caught up on this fantasy of this perfect guy who's going to solve all their problems and, you know, make everything so much better for them. And it's like, most guys can't live up to that. I'm a normal person. I put my pants on one leg at a time, you know. I can't literally really live up to that crazy Prince Charming, like, you know, ideal. And then not only that, like with a lot of the feminism and a lot of the political ideologies that are out there, a lot of women straight up hate men. I would say the majority of women probably hate men on some level. And, you know, when you talk to a lot of these chicks, a weird little jab is going to be thrown in about the patriarchy or this or that, or are you a misogynist? Are you a feminist? Are you that? I've had these conversations a lot, and I've overheard these conversations where it's a liberal chick and a liberal guy. Even the liberal guys don't want to have to, like, deal with that. Like, this weird, like, I don't know, this weird, like, I don't even know what to call it, but this weird guilt trip. This weird, like, are you part of the proper club? You know, are you going to agree with me on this stuff? And it's not even that, but it's not even like, you know, they're talking about women's rights or whatever. It's like they make men into the bad guy. And if you're a man, you know, with a lot of these women, you're automatically a bad guy, no matter what, just by default. And they all get together and they talk trash about men and how men ain't this and men ain't that and I don't need a man and blah-da-da-da. And it's, you know, you got to deal with like all that stuff. And the thing is, because of that, and because of some of the stuff I talked about earlier, you know, with guys getting too gooned out, it's like, it's impossible to approach women now. Some of these women, if you even look at them, they'll think you're some kind of creep or weirdo. Really. I mean, I've had to deal with stuff where I'm just like, geez, like, you can't even talk to them, say hi to them, nothing. They'll get the wrong idea about absolutely everything. It's not all of them, but it's a good amount of them. And the old thing people used to say to guys, like, the worst you can do is say no. And I mean, if you're talking to a sane, normal woman, sure, but, you know, they don't factor in that all these, like, insane, crazy chicks. And, you know, for a lot of these chicks, if you even go and try to talk to them, they'll say you're a creep, they'll say you're a bad guy, they'll try to cause all these problems for you, they'll try to get you kicked out of the venue. If it's at the workplace, they'll try to cause a huge problem with it there. And I'm just talking about normal, like, you know, hey, how's your day going? Or, hey, that sweater looks nice. Or, what are you doing on the weekend? You know, just normal, regular, chill energy kind of stuff. And that's not all women. There's still positive, normal women out there, but there's a good amount of them that will just really go crazy on you. And you don't want to step on that landmine. So, and I mean, for the majority of guys, if you would really ask them why they don't want to talk to women or approach women or why they're shy or why they don't make a move, that's the reason why. That's the reason why for the majority of guys. They do not want to get a bad label put on them. They don't want to have a chick blow up on them or go crazy on them. The majority of guys do not want to have to deal with that. And that's why the majority of guys just stay to themselves and don't approach women, don't talk to women. I mean, there's the reason right there, you know? So that really makes it a tough one to navigate. And beyond that, you know, this is a tough thing to say. This is a tough thing to say, but there's a lot of women who maybe they party when they're younger, do some stuff when they're younger. I did it. They did it. I'm not judging them for doing it, but, and then they get older and they become very religious or very spiritual. And I've had to deal with some problems with this where essentially they'll become very religious and, you know, then I'll think like, oh, sweet, a girl who believes in God too. We both follow Christ. Awesome. You know, and I've had to deal with this a little bit, but then, you know, all of a sudden they sort of put themselves over you as this like spiritual arbiter, you know, and all of a sudden they're throwing Bible verses at you. All of a sudden, you're not, you know, good enough for them. You know, all of a sudden, they're hitting you with just tons and tons of religious guilt. And all of a sudden, they're expecting the whole world out of you, you know? And I've had to deal with some stuff like this. I really have. And this was not on a religious basis specifically, but there was a girl I was talking to. Things were going great. I thought everything was awesome. It was just online, you know, she lived, you know, a little ways away from me, but, you know, we're talking, never met her, just talking online, and I remember we're talking, I think things are going great, and I forgot her last name. You know, I met online, we're using screen names, you know, my memory is kind of bad with names, I forget everybody's name, it's something I struggle with, and she took it really, really bad. And I didn't think it was a big deal, but she took it really bad. And in that taking it bad, she accused me of cheating on her or asked me, who is there someone else? Why can't you remember my name? I'm like, I just forgot your last name. I'm sorry. It was not her first name, just her last name. Only been talking about a week or so. Never met in person. And then I'm having to like prove to her, like, baby, no, it's not this, it's not that. And this whole thing, you have to prove you love me. And then she says, if you had a daughter, would you want her to date a guy like you? Which is such a weird thing to say. And, I was still not seeing this for what it was. So I was like, yeah, I'd be fine with that. It's a weird question to ask, a weird way of putting that, It's a weird thing to say, but I guess so. I was kind of like, yeah, like I know who I am. I know that I got good intentions. Like, yeah, but I remember once I got off the phone and once I thought about things, I'm like, man, this ain't it. This ain't it. I can't be doing this. I can't be getting hit with all these guilt trips and be getting hit with all this stuff about how I'm not good enough. And, because with a lot of these chicks, it's like, they're just going to wait for you to make a mistake, wait for you to make one small slip up, and then they're going to throw the book at you. They're going to throw the book at you, and they're going to totally go off on you and accuse you of whatever they can and just like trip out. And it's just like, man, like, I just want like a normal person who can just show me normal respect, and a small mistake's not that big a deal. A small mistake isn't that big a deal, but a lot of guys end up trapped in marriages like this. They end up trapped in long-term relationships like this. They end up being trapped having kids with someone like this, and it just makes their life freaking hell. And God even gave me a dream about this, woman I was talking about. He gave me a dream. I'm not going to say it right now. It's too personal, but he gave me a dream and showed me that I had to step away from that. I had to walk away from that, and yeah, and I mean, there's problems on the men's side too, like with the red pill stuff. Like, some of it I can agree with, maybe a little bit, but most of it I think goes too far, and a lot of it is kind of getting guys to just hate women. And now there's a lot of guys who just hate women, and I don't know, like, I've seen things where a man and a woman were together and the woman made more money, and then when the guy divorced her, he got a bunch of money out of her and like did all this lawyer stuff. And I don't know, a lot of guys are getting into a very pissy, passive-aggressive, feminine kind of energy, and they're hating women, and I don't know, and the whole thing is just twisted up. And, as a man, you do need to love a woman. Like, I try to really put my best foot forward to love a woman and to be nice and to be positive and to give compliments and to, like, try to help her out in life, look out for her, give her good advice, whatever. I try to, like, be that person. I'm not perfect, but I try to be that person. And when I was younger doing the hookups, I wasn't doing that. I'm just trying to get mine. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, But I really do try to love a woman, and, I want to give her good guidance, protect her, respect her. I want to do all that, but she got to respect me too. She got to love me and respect me too. She has to respect my boundaries too, and she can't be coming at me with manipulation and games, That can't be happening at all, That really can't. I'm not going to accept manipulation and games, and there's just a lot of that. There's a lot of that. A lot of manipulation, a lot of games, and it's just tough to make it work with someone. And it's tough to find people who are just emotionally well-adjusted. Normal people who aren't just going to, like, have all these red flags and problems just showing up. And the thing also is, romance is used as a weapon. It is, because you're being so nice and romantic, and you're telling each other you love each other, and you're so beautiful, and you're so handsome, and this and that. But then in between that is games and control, and I texted you, and it took you 5 minutes to text me back. You should have texted me back faster. Why you forgot to text me back? In the middle of that, there's a lot of clinginess, and that clinginess becomes possessive and controlling. It does. And there's guys who do this with chicks, where they get possessive and clingy and controlling. Why didn't she text me back? What's she doing? There's guys that do it too, they do, but it's just like, man, like, everybody needs a lot more self-esteem. Men and women need to stop this battle. You need to stop being at war with each other. That's not going to lead to anything good, It's really not. And there just needs to be more security. Things need to be more healthy, and there's bigger societal things that should be changed. I mean, all the adult content, I don't think we should have that so readily available. I think it's very destructive and harmful. You know, and a lot of the kind of feminist kind of stuff, which is you don't need no man, men are bad, men are all the world's evil is men's fault, and you know, a lot of this stuff which is just straight up hateful to men, you know, that needs to be chilled out. You know, so if you want women's rights and you want fair treatment, that's fine, but with a lot of these women, it's like they're seeing a misogynist everywhere they go, or if they need some attention, all of a sudden you're a bad man. And I've just been around it a lot, and I see it happening a lot more, where just like this like you're a bad man thing just will come up out of nowhere, and you know, all of a sudden you're out having this weird conversation about the patriarchy and misogyny and all this stuff, and it's just like, I don't even know what I said, I don't even know what I did, I don't even know where this is coming from, but that'll just pop up out of nowhere. And you know, they really got to chill out on all that. That's going way out of control. That's getting way out of hand. And even with a lot of the red pill stuff, like, that stuff needs to be chilled out on too. Like, a lot of that stuff gets a little weird and gets a little too judgmental of women and gets too hateful on women, and a lot of that stuff needs to be chilled out as well. And there just needs to be basic respect, basic understanding. Also the hookup culture too. Like, we need to move more toward a culture of long-term relationships, marriage, family, kids. That needs to start becoming more of the social norm again, you know, because that's definitely making it very hard to just have normal dating and normal marriage and normal relationships. So yeah, I'm gonna end this video here. Thank you all so much for watching. Much love, God bless, and I will catch you all next time. Thanks for watching.